Hello, friends from the League of Women Voters of Minnesota. My name is Amy Klobuchar, and I am so honored to be here tonight. And I'm even more honored to be your senator and represent all of you Minnesotans, from the Twin Cities to the Iron Range to the North Shore. And as you know, we like to say, paraphrasing Garrison Keillor, that Minnesota is the state where all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the voters are above average. I mean, we are literally the top in the country for voter turnout. At least we have been for the past 8 out of 9 presidential elections. So it's obvious how seriously we take voting and political participation here. I'm looking around the room and I see iron ore miners like my grandpa, who work 1,500 feet underground in the Iron Range. I see immigrants like my relatives who came to this country from another land seeking the American dream, who made a home here, who started their families here, who had a better life here. I see people like my in-laws from Mankato who are people of faith in God, faith in family, who raised 6 boys in a mobile home. I see teachers like my mother, who taught 2nd grade until she was 70, and whose students 30 years later still tell me that she was their favorite teacher. I see journalists like my father, who grew up in a mining town, who got his degree from Vermilion Junior College and the University of Minnesota, and went on to interview everyone from Mike Ditka to Ronald Reagan to Ginger Rogers. I see people that dare to dream, people that have a vision for the future, people that have the courage to stand up for a better tomorrow. And I want all of you to know that I will dream, fight, and persist alongside you, for Minnesotans and for all Americans. And so tonight, I am not here campaigning to be your Minnesota senator. Tonight, I'm here to kick off my campaign and announce my candidacy to be the first Minnesotan, the first female, and the next president of the United States of America. As your president, I will fight for a One America, a message that is modeled after the successful campaign of our Minnesota governor-elect Tim Walz, whose message resonated with us: One Minnesota. I was inspired by the unity that this message brought to Minnesotans from different backgrounds and ideologies and beliefs. I saw how voters chose to embrace One Minnesota, and now in a time plagued with partisan divides that run deeper every day, we need a leader that can bring us back together and remind us that before we were Republicans or Democrats, Christians or Muslims, white or black, male or female, we were always and always will be, above all else, Americans. And as Americans, together we stand. We need a president that understands the importance of this unity. After all, we aren't called the divided states of America. Our president, a global leader and world power, should represent and promote a message of One America, where there is respect for the differences among us. As a senator, I saw firsthand the important work that we do in Congress and how it affects the lives of not only our constituents, but of all Americans. That is why I am running to become the very first female president, because I have worked tirelessly as a senator on your behalf, and I will continue to do so as your president. You know, Minnesota is known for the Purple Vikings, Prince and Purple Rain, and our infamous purple blend of politics. Well, this purple could do some good in America. The red Republicans and the blue Democrats working together. And I know that the idea of working together seems far-fetched in today's politics, but together we can spread our purple pride and restore the unity that once was the foundation of the United States of America. The unity seen here in Minnesota is an inspiration for the future of America. In fact, here we are, gathered together, the most notorious rivals in all of Minnesota, the east side and the west side of the river. So it's been said that there are St. Paul people and there are Minneapolis people. You know, kind of like how there are dog people and cat people. One isn't necessarily better than the other. They're just, different. But luckily, I'm from Plymouth, so I don't have to take sides. But the point is that differences among us exist. Differences in values, beliefs, ideologies, backgrounds, and this isn't exclusive to Minnesota. It is true for every nook and cranny of our country. The president should be leading the nation in finding common ground between us. The most obvious of which is that we are all Americans. You are an American, I'm an American and I'm a Democrat. But according to election results, the Republicans in Minnesota seem to think I'm actually okay and electable. 43 counties that voted for Trump in 2016 even turned blue in 2018. Maybe because my constituents know I respect and value their opinions, or maybe it's because I am Minnesotan before I'm a Democrat, something that we all share at our core. Or maybe it's because us Minnesotans appreciate the opportunities and quality of life that have become more accessible since electing Democrats like Mark Dayton, Tim Walz, Heather Edelson to state offices. It's great to call our home state of Minnesota a state that invests in education and infrastructure and people, and still manages to have a $1.9 billion surplus. That's what happens when you put Democrats in charge. It's great to call our home state of Minnesota a state that stands up for civil liberties and voting rights and marriage equality. That's what happens when you put a Democrat in charge. And it's great to call our home state of Minnesota a state that CNBC voted as the best state to do business in, even better than Texas. So take that, Ted Cruz. But really, that, my friends, is what happens when you put a Democrat in charge. But all Americans deserve the opportunities that we are also lucky to have. And I don't mean the opportunity to experience blizzards or negative 20-degree weather. I mean the opportunities we have as one of the happiest, healthiest, fittest, smartest states. And of course, the friendliest state. That Minnesota nice thing is for real. Maybe we can even make America nice a thing. But I truly am humbled by how far Minnesota has come since first becoming a state in 1858. We have come such a long way since we first elected a female congresswoman, Koya Knutson, in 1954. Now in 2018, we elected Tina Smith and myself to the U.S. Senate, which is the first time in our history to elect two female senators. I just can't wait to be mistaken for Tina because, we are females. And all female congresswomen will tell you that it happens. But no hard feelings. There are just so many women in Congress now that it must be hard to tell us all apart. And we all know more women in Congress is a great thing because, take it from me, the women of Congress are some of the most effective legislators. But if you don't believe me, there was even a Harvard study proving it. And it had 3 conclusions. First, we work harder. Second, we work together. And third, and most importantly, I think, we support each other. So the bottom line is that we get things done. And with the partisan divide that grows deeper and more destructive to American prosperity, it is even more important that we elect a leader that can put the party politics aside and work together to get things done. A leader that lives by and strives for a one America. Now, I'll admit sometimes in the Senate we had to get creative to ensure bipartisanship support. My favorite example is when we passed legislation that would allow Senator Duckworth to cast vote on the Senate floor with her newborn baby Miley. Well, Senator Orrin Hatch, on the eve of the big vote, objected by saying, and this was public, well, okay, maybe we could, have that baby, but what if we have 10 babies on the floor? Well, I looked at him, and without missing a beat, I said, what are you talking about? We already have 10 babies on the floor. Okay, so I didn't actually say that. I only thought it. But what I actually said was that we would be so lucky if we could have 10 women senators that had 10 babies that we had on the floor. But Senator Hatch and his colleagues didn't agree. So after all this, I decided to pull a Dr. Seuss on them. And so I had to get creative to ensure the bipartisan support. So I presented my argument to Senator Hatch, and I said, she will not change a diaper on the floor. She will not nurse her baby by the door. She will not feed it in the house. She will be as quiet as a mouse. She will not burp it during work. Stop being such a jerk. And as you know, the legislation passed, and Senator Duckworth was able to cast her vote on the Senate floor with baby Miley in tow. Sometimes a creative perspective can really work wonders, but only if the desire for the cooperation exists first. So, as many of you know, as your senator, I made a point to visit all 87 counties of Minnesota every single year. And I'll admit that some of those visits had gotten pretty interesting. In one county, we went to see an award-winning business. The name? Insect Inferno. The motto? We kill bed bugs with heat. Yes, that's right. They had this truck that they put mattresses and sofas into with a sign on the side that read, "We kill bugs with heat." So, of course, I was curious and I got into the truck. And then they said to me, "We will only turn the heat up halfway, Senator." And as former Republican presidential candidate once said, "We don't just show up where we're comfortable." And he was right. We show up where it's uncomfortable, even when they turn up the heat. Well, it might be really hard to visit the 3,007 counties in the U.S. every single year. The value of listening to people remains just as strong in me, and I am even more committed to advocating on behalf of the people who make America what it is. People like you, and people like you. In 2020, I hope that you will elect me to the office that represents all Americans. I believe Minnesota is an inspiration and model for the future of the U.S., where all Americans can live in a society where the growth, economy, education, healthcare, and quality of life is among the top. And I am confident that all the things that make Minnesota such a prosperous and united place can resonate with all of America. I am proud of my state and all that we've accomplished, and I am hopeful for the future of America. With all of you by my side, we can create change and reunite the nation in a time when we need it the most. I'm hopeful for the future, for America, and for all of you. I'm hopeful that Republicans and Democrats can work together. I am hopeful that as your next president, I can create an environment that promotes growth that Americans can appreciate. I'm hopeful because when the president decided to take our country out of the climate change agreement, making us the only nation in the world not a part of it, cities, states, and businesses, they all kept working to meet those goals anyway. But the president should not have taken us out of the agreement. I mean, if Weight Watchers can have a calorie counter, we can certainly have a carbon counter. I'm hopeful because while our president was crying witch hunt, Congress has undertaken a truth hunt. Russian interference in our elections is not just about election security. It is about national security. We work together as Republicans and Democrats to get hundreds of millions of dollars, $380 million to be exact, to help protect our elections and voting systems. You see, there's a lot to be hopeful about. Unlike little baby Miley, you and I are not sleeping through this moment in history. We are wide awake, taking all of this in and creating change. So today I'm asking you, all my friends from the League of Women Voters of Minnesota, my peers, to stand up, not just in words, but in action. Just look at what we've been able to do together. On day 2, after President Trump was sworn into office, millions marched in Washington for the first ever Women's March. On day 3, 6,000 of those women that marched signed up to run for office. And today, we're up to over 30,000 women looking to run. And tomorrow, who knows? We could elect the first female president in the history of the United States. On day 186, when the president and his allies tried to take away healthcare from millions of Americans, we stood up, united, and we stood together. The Senate Democrats, from Joe Manchin to Bernie Sanders, said no. We said no, and guess what? We won. That happened. But we couldn't have done it without the bipartisan support of 3 courageous Republican senators, a show of how important bipartisanship can be. On day 728, a record number of women were elected to the House, 123, easily beating the record of 84 women. A lot has happened since then. But in 717 days, on November 3rd, 2020, we have voted on the next president of the United States. On that day, with the wind at our backs, with a lot of hard work, and with the help of all of you, we are going to send a clear message to the country. Americans are not just resisting, we are insisting on a better way forward. That is why I am so honored and so happy to announce to all of you my candidacy for the President of the United States. With your help, with the help of Minnesota, today will be the start of a successful and historic presidential campaign. On November 3rd, 2020, we will no longer be known as the divided states of America. Together, we will instead be known as One America. Thank you.